All right, everyone. So if you just throw your attention up to the board for a second, I adjusted the calendar for us in here to reflect what's happened the last couple of classes. Of course, this last Monday I was out, and then last Wednesday we had the text and AutoCAD lesson. Today we're going to go over tables. Okay. I'm going to show you how to create drawing 5. There's a couple different ways you can do it. And the instructions kind of are a little misleading because how I taught it in the past, I didn't necessarily want to take you down the deep dive of tables, but I just decided I'm going to spend the time, the extra 15 minutes or so to show it to you thoroughly, record it, and then that way you have it. Okay. And I'll show you how to create lesson 5. It's a little challenging. So I would suggest you kind of try your best to focus on what I'm going to do. I am recording it, so it will be posted in the Google Drive that you have access to, but it'll help you to grasp that. And unfortunately, what I can't do for you is read paragraph by paragraph in the book of what's going to happen. We'd be here for hours, people. I'm going to show you what you need to know to create that drawing 5. In turn, that'll help you create other things, and there'll be plenty enough to get you through the midterm if it asks any questions, because there's no tables on the midterm. However, the key here will be understanding how to create a basic table, how to assign a text style to it, because we'll need to do that in order to do it correctly. And then, hold on a second, I'm sorry. There we go. We got Sebastian now. All right. And that'll just make it simpler. As you can see, just another item. Next Wednesday, a week from this Wednesday, will be our midterm. So it's going to cover all the lessons, basically up to lesson 10, right? So you'll need to be prepared for that. You won't necessarily be doing every single thing. And your questions are random questions. So everybody gets different questions, right? So everybody's questions are different. You get 2 attempts at it. I'll mention it again this Wednesday and again next Monday, because I don't want anybody feeling they forgot. Because this week, I'm sure some of you have midterms this week, don't you? Some of you in some of your classes, you maybe you don't. Usually week 8, week 9 is around when midterms are. I try and stay in week 9 because most people tend to have them in week 8, okay? So if you have any questions about the midterm other than, when we're taking it, feel free to approach me individually and I'll explain it to you. If you have some accommodations that you need, if you need to start early, you need more time because of your accommodation card, I'm more than happy to set you up where we need to set you up and we'll go from there, okay? Just make sure you come to me personally about that because it's a personal thing. It's not something we want to talk about in front of the whole class. All right. So that's where we are. Today is the 9th, and so we'll be talking about tables. So I'll go ahead and shut that down. And then, does anybody, before we get started, have any questions about drawing 1 through 4? Pretty simple, right? Okay. So drawing 5, all we're going to talk about today is how we're going to do drawing 5. And in order to make it easier and not have to go back and forth, what I've done is I've put a copy or a image of drawing 5 in my AutoCAD drawing, all right? If you remember, the first thing that we want to do here is set up a text style before we do anything else, because that's one of the things we've been doing typically in the last 4 drawings, setting up a text style and then creating some text based on that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and project to your screens now because everybody's pretty much here. That way it'll be a little easier for some of you to see. And I'm still waiting on my new glasses to come in, people, so please be patient with me. All right. Okay, let's see. All right, you got me? Yes? Okay, good. So it wants us to draw this schedule. And normally people, and I want you to watch me for just a moment. Back when I first started using AutoCAD many years ago, we created schedules strictly by using lines and rotating text. So hold on one second. Somebody on Zoom is having trouble. Let me see if I can get it to them real quick. Bear with me for a second, people. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's see if that worked. Okay. All righty. Sorry about that. I was sending the link to somebody else. I thought I had the link saved in Blackboard for the virtual login, but I'll need to double check that. I just didn't have time to do it before class started. So let's start let's create a new text style. And if you remember the way we can do it, few different ways. We can go to the annotate tab and I'll just click that down arrow. And I can create a style and I'm just going to hit new. And I'm just going to call the text style what the font is named. And that's STYLUSBT. That's what I'm going to call it. It's just easier to do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. And I'm going to click on it and say set current. That way it's the current text style. Remember, I'm not going to assign a height to this. I could assign a width if I wanted to, right? Remember we said we can assign widths. So for this problem, I'm just going to create my width at 0.9, right? Just make it just a hair narrower than it would normally be. You don't have to. You can always adjust your cells to do that. Now, I don't want you to do what I'm about to do because that's not what we are going to do today. Years ago, if an engineer or an interior designer gave me their schedule and I was their draftsperson designer, I would go in and I'd simply create a box, right? And then I would offset, some distance and create these items here, right? These line items. And this would be the easiest way to do this, right? And right now I'm not even necessarily using a particular distance here. Now I'm just going to say 0.3 for these other rows, right? And actually, I'm going to say 0.5, and I would start creating all these, right? See what I'm doing? And remember, I don't want you to do this. But years ago, before tables and AutoCAD, this is what I would do. And then I would go in and I would create a header font. That's what this is up here. And I would start kind of trimming things out where I didn't need lines, right? And then I would say offset again, and I would say offset, and I would say maybe 2 units, right? Right. And that's pretty much what I have. And then I could stretch all of this back, right? I could stretch and make them so that they're almost the same size. And then I could go in and create a piece of text like MT. Remember that from the other day? And I could make it fit in here. And I'm going to come back and adjust this. I'm going to put on my caps lock. Right. And then I could select all that and say, make it 0.25 or make it 0.3, right? Just something that looks good for right now. And remember, I can change the justification. center, right? And I've got my stylus BT font, and that looks pretty good, right? Yay. And if I want to make sure it's exactly in the middle, you know what I can do? I can draw a line across here, and I can click on this, and I can say right click, and I can say go to properties. Remember that? And I can remember this from last week. I can say justification. I can say it's middle center. And look at that. Now I've got a grip in the middle here, right? And then I can say, put this at the midpoint of this line. Boom. And now it's right in the center. That's nice, right? And then I can say, I'm going to copy this piece of text, and I'm going to scale it down. Remember the scale command? In half, 0.5, right? And then I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to say, I want this to say room, right? And I can make it smaller, right? And I'm going to say, right, I'm going to drop that right in there. And I can say, that's close enough to the middle for me. I'm not going to draw a line and do it again. But if I wanted to be exact, I could. But for the sake of time, I won't. Then I'm going to copy these across, right? And really, people, I'm just creating this on the fly. I don't know what size text is in here, right? I just made one that was half. I scaled it down to 0.25. I scaled it down to half, so it's a quarter now. And then I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to change this to floor. And I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to change this to walls. And then I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to change this to ceiling. Okay. All right. And then look, I've got this title text because that's telling me what schedule this is. What's the name of it? Then I have this second line here that's telling me some other items. So that's the first line of headers. Now I need another set of headers down here before I get down to my rows. So what I'm going to do is say, hey, under floor, I've got 5 columns because anything that's horizontal is a row. Anything that's up and down is a column, right? So I'm going to go divide this up now. I'm going to say offset, and I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to 0.5, and I'm going to go and do that. But then what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim, I'm going to TR trim that, delete that. I'm going to TR trim that, and then delete the rest of that. And then I'm going to offset this 0.5, right? And maybe I might have to do a little smaller because I might not have enough room. Yeah. So you know what I'm going to do before I go any further? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say stretch this. I can stretch this whole thing. See that? Make it bigger. And then I can say offset. That's 3. That's 4. That last one's 5. So just for visual purposes, I can stretch all that back just a hair, right? And they're all about 5. It's okay. Then in walls, I can see I'm going to need 4 columns. And then in the ceiling one, I'm going to need 3. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stretch, just S on the keyboard, grab up to the line I need. You see these other 2 lines aren't selected, so they're not going to stretch, all right? And then look what I can do. I can say CO copy, and I can say copy these 3 from that intersection to there. And then I can stretch this back just a hair, all right? And people, if I was making this column for real, I'd be doing it exact. That's what I expect you to do. I'm doing this for the sake of time and speed. So then I can say copy, and now I just know I need these to make 3 columns, right? And then I can stretch the end of my schedule this direction, right? Okay. And then I can say, okay, I'm going to move this floor over a little toward the middle so it's centered up, kind of like this markup over here. Then guess what I'm going to do? I see I have this big space under the name of the room, but I'm going to copy this piece of text to this column. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to RO rotate it, right? Or if you don't like using things on the keyboard, you could just come up to the home tab and hit rotate, click on your piece of text and rotate it 90 degrees. While I'm in here, what I'm going to do is right click, and I can say while I am selected, I can right click and go to properties, and I can say instead of middle center, I can make it bottom center, right? Something like that. All right, so I'm going to move this down, and then I'm going to copy it over, right? And I'm going to copy it from this intersection into each column. See that? And then, you know what I'm going to do after that? You guessed it. I'm going to change the name of all of these, right? And if I wanted to take the time to do it, I'll just do the first one, right? All I do is double click, and I change this to vinyl. Okay, all right. Hold on, everybody. Sorry. Somebody's trying to join with Zoom and they can't. All right. All right, so let's say I changed the name of all of them to what they were supposed to be, right? And then I kind of grabbed this one here and I copied it down to there. And then I went in here and I changed the properties and I changed the justification to bottom left, right? And now I can move this over toward the left since it's left justified. And, you know, maybe I change this to entry, right? And then I could copy as many of these down as I needed to make this schedule. And then I would never dream of making you watch me change all the names of these. So you're going to pretend like I did already, right? Right, all the way down to the last one, which is what? Utility, right? So I can zoom in, utility. Let's pretend I changed them all. And then under here, watch this. You see all these lines that are coming down? You know how I create that? How I get all those down? I say, I can go to the extend command, which is under the trim, right? And we're going to talk more about those next week. I'm going to select this bottom line, right? And you're like, Joel, what do you mean you're extending? Look at this. You see how I'm extending just to the one down beneath it? But if I say, give me a boundary edge instead, and then select this boundary edge and click enter, look what I can do. I can make all these go down. See that? See how nice and easy that is? And then the last thing I need are those little bullets in there, right? That would get me where I needed to be. So how do I create the bullet? Well, what's interesting is I'm going to go where I need a bullet, and I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to pull it down right here, right? And then I'm going to just click on that and double click it. Watch this. Zoom in, double click. If I needed to, I could come in here and I could say, give me a symbol. And what I'm going to tell you is that under symbols, if you click it, it's going to pull up this chart on one of your other screens. I'm going to go to the STY stylus BT, and I'm going to go down, and right in here, here's that bullet. See, I double click it and it doesn't seem to want to do anything. And I say select, but notice there's a little code. For the bullet, I need a U plus 2022, but what it's not showing you, it also needs a slash in front. So I can select these, see that, and copy them, close that box. And then if I hit Control V, oh, it doesn't work. Well, like I said, I'm going to put in a slash and then a capital U with the plus sign 2022. And you see it gives me that little bullet. And then I can copy that bullet. First of all, I can make it bigger if I want, right? So I can say instead of 0.150, make it 0.250, right? So now it's a little bigger. And then once I get it there, I can copy that bullet wherever I need it. Make sense? Now, that would be one way you could go and create this schedule. The more technical way to do it is to use something called a table. But I need you to understand there may still be people out there that create schedules just like this. But a table is a much more versatile way to create a schedule like this. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. All right. So first things first, to get to tables, I could type in the word table, but I'm also going to go to the annotate tab. And under the annotate tab, there's a ribbon with a command called table. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to pull up the screen. And look what it's showing you already. It's showing you already that it has a generic standard table that comes with a title field, much like here, a header field, much like here, and then data fields like here and here. These are data fields, okay? You can control the number of rows and settings and their width automatically. So I wouldn't have to go through and do all that offsetting and stretching that I was doing, right? You can also do it dynamically. I'll show you that as well. And you can create the rows and make the row heights as well. Then you can create different cell styles. Like for instance, the title is a cell in itself. This is a separate cell where it says interior finish schedule. Then you see you have the header. But you're like, Joel, what about these headers? How do we create those? Well, we're going to learn that too, because we have to create our own cell style. So I'll show you how to do that as well. Okay. Now, you might be asking, what else in the world would I use this for? Well, besides interior finish schedules, there could be equipment schedules for HVAC and electrical. There could be door schedules and window schedules for architectural. There could be plumbing equipment schedules. There could be fire sprinkler schedule. There could be all kinds of schedules. We schedule information to put it in an organized format to tell people what we need. We also could use this to tell quantities. We might want to use our schedules to express quantities. How many of these do we need, right? But ours is pretty simple right now. But you could use this for a number of different things. We could go on for hours and I could put you to sleep talking about it, but I won't, okay? What I want to do now is start to think about the table. I don't want to use this standard one because if I did this, watch what happens. Oh, that's what I'm going to use. It's great. I come out here and I put my schedule in there. And as soon as I put my schedule in there, I could put, right? I haven't really even, there it is. And then I could put in here, I could say, make this the room schedule. And then I could hit the tab key and say, make this floor. And then I could hit the next one and say walls. And then the next one, ceiling. And then you're like, well, you don't need the last one, Joel. So I could go in here and look what I could do. I can select both of these, this whole row in here, this whole column. And I can say columns, or I could say delete all contents. Oh, there's nothing in there. How do I get rid of that row? Well, I can say click once, twice, hold down shift. And could I say delete somewhere? Right? What about, oh, columns, delete. There it goes, right? And then dynamically, I can go in here and I can say, stretch this down. But notice what it does. It stretches all of them. And it's kind of what I want. But how do I get these other what? These other headers in here that are supposed to read vinyl, carpet, tile, hardwood, concrete, paper, texture, spray, smooth, brocade, and paint. Okay. And brocade is just a kind of fancy word for a finish that interior designers like Kylie like to use. You know, we don't understand them, but interiors people do, right? Brocade. All right. So what next? Let's figure out how, instead of using this generic one, we can create a schedule with a second header, and then we can create our data cells. Does that make sense so far? Yes? Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to try and work with me together. So hopefully you're in AutoCAD already. Yes? Huh? You should be on time more often. You're working on it. Hold on a minute. So what we're going to want to do, people, and I like giving Sebastian a hard time. It's fun. It's one of the perks of the job. Okay. So put your attention up here for a second and make sure you're in AutoCAD, right? And make sure that you have this text layer established, because you want it to be on the text layer when it's done. You see the instructions here say this. They say, with a text style, with the stylus BT font to add the text, save this drawing. So they were assuming you would build it just, the original instructions are like, build this like this. And guess what, people, in the end, it's okay if you do build it like this, but you're going to learn how to build it in a table as well and see how much easier it is. And then you'll see why we want to use a table, because the table will allow us to export. Okay, Sebastian's in now. All right. So here we go. Let's change the screens. Okay. So how do we create this a different way? Well, and I'll try and go slow. I'll go up to the Annotate tab and I'll simply click on Table right there, just like that. And where it says Insert Table, if you hover there, it says click here to launch the table style dialog. Well, what is that? Well, I'm going to click it, and now it's saying, hey, Joel, do you want to create a new table? Yes. I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say I want to create the interior finish schedule. And it says start with standard, which is fine because we don't have anything else to start with right now. Once I put the new style name in there, I'm going to say continue. And then it should on your other screen pop up this box. Now, you can, for the life of me, I don't know why you'd want to, but some people do. I know who does this. Mechanical designers that do like industrial design, they like their schedules to read from the bottom up. But the majority of us always want to read from the top down. That's what we're used to, right? For my drafting students in engineering graphics this spring, we'll create a table from the bottom up to emulate assembly schedules, but that's a story for another day. Now, over here, you see that there's different cell styles, and by default, there are 3. There's data, which is what you're reading in the box here, or when you look over here, data. Everything down here is data, right? Quantities, data, right? With the entry has a concrete floor, the foyer has a tile floor, the kitchen has a tile floor. You see what's happening in this schedule? But there is a title, right? Or header, as they call it, but they say title. But sorry. Title is the top one with this information, the name of the schedule. That's the title of the whole thing. You're typically only ever going to have one of those. But you could have multiple headers. Headers are the things here that read room, floor, wall, ceiling. But then there's also subheaders here. Vinyl, carpet, tile, hardwood, concrete. Do you see what I mean? So right now, we don't have a second set of headers. We need to create one, so we need to create a new cell type. And then we need to establish the properties of it. For instance, let's look at the properties of the first header. If I look at that, when I look at the text, you see I can click on these 3 tabs, general text and borders. Go to the text tab. What is the angle of the text in my header by default? 0. What do I want it to be in this subheader here? 90. So I'm going to need to make some adjustments when I do that. And then I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to create them to get, oh, this is going to be challenging, people, right? Not so much. Watch what we do. If I come back to the beginning and I'm just going to say, let's go create new cell style. Create new cell style. That's what we want to do. And I'm going to click here and I'm going to say subheader. Right? Subheader. It's a header under the header. I could call it header 1 or header 17 or header, 37346. I don't know. But it's going to be a subheader. And I'm going to start with the header style of cell and then hit continue. And now in this subheader, what am I going to change this to be? 90, right? Not plus 90, just 90. And then I'm going to say, okay. And then I'm going to say close, right? And now I'm looking at this and I'm like, hey, I've got all these headers, but it doesn't seem to have added. Look at the cell styles. The first row style is a title. The second row style is a header. And then all other cells, look, it's data. It doesn't give me a place to put in my subheader. How am I going to do it? Well, let's go back up here to this interior finish schedule. Let's launch the dialog again. And let's see if I can modify this. What can I do? Can I add, does it look like I can add that third row in here? Look at this. I don't want to create a new cell style. I don't want to manage the cell style dialog right now. You see what it's telling me? It's like, hey, how am I going to add that third row up or that subheader set of cells? That's the challenge, people. How are we going to get that to work, right? Because if I change this format, look, I don't want to change the format of anything right now. This would be if I was changing quantities, if I wanted to put a cost in there and make it show a percentage or a dollar amount, or I wanted it to show an angle, or I wanted it to show a date. I could do all of those kinds of cell formats. But right now, I'm just trying to get a third row to show up in here. Now, because it doesn't tell you what size to make all these fonts, we're going to accept the defaults for right now for everything. Okay, we're just going to accept the defaults. But no, I can change the width, depth, and size of anything. And I can prove it. See, I can do that. I can change that text height if I want to. But for right now, I'm just going to say, hey, in the title, you see how it makes it larger? It assumes 0.250, a quarter inch. And for us, that's going to be okay. And then for headers, the first header, it says it's 0.180. And guess what? For us, that's going to be okay. And then for our data, look at that. It says it's 0.180. We're going to change that. Well, you know what? No, we're not going to change it. We're not going to change it at all. We're just going to say, okay, I don't know how to make that third row in there right now. Maybe Joel will help me with it later. But now I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to say, okay, I don't want 5 columns. I want 4. Sorry, 4. And that's my default column width. And then by data rows, I'm going to say, hey, I don't know how many I quite need right now. I'm just going to up it to maybe 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, I'm good at counting. How about we say 13, though, for this extra one here? Because that's a row in itself, right? Here's a row. It's just a bigger row. And we can adjust the size of rows on the fly. So I'm going to say, okay, 4 columns, width of 0.250. And then I'm going to say 13 rows with a row height of 1 line. That's all I care about right now. And then the first is title, the second is header, the third is data. Or all other rows are data, but what about our subheader? We're getting there, people. I'm going to say, okay. And now look at it. It gives me this. And I click, and then right in here, I'm going to start by typing in. Oops, sorry. Caps lock. Interior finish schedule. Boom. There we go. Now, what's the problem with the interior finish schedule I put in there? People, this is very much on purpose. What is it not showing? Say it louder. The font. That's the wrong font. It's supposed to be Stylus BT. So now I've got to go in and double click my schedule. Not sorry, I don't have to double click it. I can just click it once, and then I can click on tables, or guess what else I can do? I can just go to annotate and click on tables. And in my interior finish schedule, what did I forget to do? I got to modify this now. What should the text have been? Look at the text style. It says what? What should it be? Stylus BT. Stylus BT. For the data, what about for the header? It needs to be Stylus BT. And for the title, it needs to be what? Stylus BT. And for the subheader, even though we don't have one yet, it needs to be what? Stylus BT. See? So now it's Stylus BT. And see how it updated the old one, so I can just hit escape and now I'm okay, right? So I'm going to put in my first row in my header cell. So I'm going to click here and I'm just going to type in what? Room. Whoop. And then I'm going to hit the tab key and type in floor. And then, and then the next one's going to be walls. And then the last one's going to be ceiling. There, I'm done, right? For those four. But now I know, look at this. This row here needs to be bigger. How am I going to make that row bigger? Well, look at these little blue things all around here. Not this diamond. Don't do that. That's a story for another day or another time later in our lesson. Notice what I can do if I see that it warms up when I hover, and when I left click, it gets hot. Now I'm dragging it and I'm saying I want it to be about that big. And now they're all that big. And I could say, I may want it to be a hair bigger. There we go. I brought it down 3. So now I've got that. But you're like, Joel, what about these sub headers? Well, guess what I'm going to do now, people? Look what I'm going to do. Watch me do this before you do it. I'm going to click in this box, right click, and I'm going to say cell style. Look where I can change that. So now in the boxes where I need it, which is, I'm just going to do this one too. 1, I'm going to hold down hold down shift. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to now right click, and under cell style, I'm going to say subheader. So now when I come in this cell and I double click, right? And I type in the word what? I should have. Vinyl, VINYL. Well, now it's that direction, right? I don't know what this was. Sorry. Huh? Okay, well, you'll be able to watch the video. Don't worry. Just keep looking. Remember, last thing I did is I changed the cell style to subheader. Now the question is, well, that's great, Joel, but how do I get, and I'm going to move this one out of the way for the sake of me seeing this a little better. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, hey, how do I get all 4 of these or 5 of those in there? Well, watch what I can do, people. What if I came in here and clicked and I said, right click. Oh, wait a minute. Nothing here is helping me. Wait, insert. Oh, none of this is helping me either. But wait, people, look what happens. I'm gonna hit escape. When I click in this box, watch how the ribbon changes up here. When I click here, I can insert columns. And maybe, just maybe, I could also column, insert left and right. So what if I say insert right 1? And then I say insert right again. And then I say, oh, how about, let's go up here. And this time, let's insert right 3, that's 4, and then insert right a 5th time. Look at this. And then I'm gonna go in here and say, yay, I can come in here now and I can type in carpet. And then I can come in here and type in what? Tile. And then I can come in here and type in what? Hardwood. And then I can come in here and type in concrete. Okay. And then you're like, Joel, that looks absolutely nothing like it's supposed to look. Okay, well, I'll make it smaller. Watch this. I can come in here and I can say, make this smaller, right? Make that one smaller, about that small, right? I'm not going to split hairs with you. You can split hairs later, right? Boom. I know it fits, right? And I made them all smaller, right? And people, keep in mind, you can go in here and control the size of this dynamically. See that? I can say I want them all to be so wide, but I'm going to let you do that on your own. The next thing I'm going to do is say, hey, these all look like they're near the bottom of the what? The bottom of the row. How would I do that? Well, what if I went in here and clicked this and said, hold down shift, 1, 2, 3, right? And then I went up here and I said, hey, see this justification? What if I said I wanted to be bottom center? See how that moved them down to the bottom, but in the center of the cell? That's helpful, right? Now you're like, Joel, this still doesn't help me because look, all of these are in separate columns. And then I've got this floor up here, and look at all these things included in here. I don't like that. Well, look what I can do now. What if I click here, left click, and then hold down shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I right click and I say columns, merge. By what? Row or column? Let's try by column. Only the first cell will be retained. Don't do this yet. Look what it did. It didn't do anything, did it? I'm going to undo that step. 1, hold down shift, 2, 3, 4, 5, right click, and then I can go to merge all. Oh, wait a minute. It took all my information away. What do I really want to do here? Hold down shift, right click, merge by row. No, it's making everything go away. What's wrong here? I'm going to stop the recording for a second because I want to talk about this. So what we discovered is that we needed to start with the hierarchy of headers, which is header, right? And not the subheader. So when I click here, now I hold down shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, right click, or I could go up here and say merge cells and merge all. And now see how that jumps to the middle? Now all I have to do is click here and do what? Make it smaller. Boom. Look at that, people. That's beautiful, isn't it? Now we need to do the same thing for walls. Walls needs 4 of them, right? Click. What do I say? I say insert right once, twice, and then 3 times, right? Then I'll go up here to walls, hold down shift, 1, 2, 3, and I'll say right click, merge, or I can just say merge all. And then now I come back and I stretch my columns, right? People, this is a much more efficient way of creating schedules in AutoCAD, right? Last but not least, under ceiling, I need 3. So I'll just say insert right once, insert right one more time, come up here to where it says ceiling, hold down shift, click, click, right click, merge all. Then I just come in here. Look at this, people. Look how easy this is. It's much easier than just offsetting things. And yes, I can make all of these the same size perfectly if I feel like it, but I'm not requiring you to. I'm requiring you to make it look close, right? Because now when I go in here, what can I do? I can double click. I can say paint, tab, next one, paper, tab, next one, texture, tab, spray, tab, right? Smooth, tab, brocade, tab, paint. And then I click a data point out here and I'm done. But then what do I need to do with all of these, people? Somebody help me, I forgot. What do I need to do with these? Align them. How do I do that, Sebastian? Click one, go to the end, click again. Okay, right click.
Align.
Alignment.
Bottom center.
Good job, sir. Now, this is easy enough, right? Now I need to go in here and put entry, tab, foyer. Oh, no, sorry. That shouldn't be there. Let me undo. I got to click on each box here. I forget how to tab down. Can I just hit the down arrow? Yep, I sure can. Down arrow. Yeah, you can hit enter too. See this? See, I'm spelling out bedroom. You know, you're like, why didn't you just put it on there if you wanted us to do that, Joel? You know, it's okay. Either way you wanted to put it. Just be consistent. Okay, there they all are. Does anybody remember how I put these dots in here? Watch this, people. Look how easy this is. Click in here, and I'm just going to type in a / whoops, with a capital U and the plus sign 2022. Look at that, gives me that dot. And then before I do anything else, look what I can do. I can click here, right? Double click, and I can make it larger. I can say make it 0.25 because it's just a dot. And then I'm going to say I want this to be middle center. So now it's in the middle of my cell. And look what I can do here. I can click in here, double click, and I can select it, and I can right click and say copy, right? What if now I go to a different cell where I need it, like under where it says tile in the foyer, double click, Control V, there we go. But now you see how I got to change the size. It's a pain in the butt, but that's okay because I can do them all at once, can't I? Like, what if I had one here and one here, right? And one here. This is not where they are in the real drawing, people. I'm just spitballing here. What if I clicked once, twice, or hold down shift, right? And then I said, right click, properties. Couldn't I make the size of all these 0.250? Look at that. That's beautiful. There we go. All right. I don't think you need me to do the rest of these, do you? I think you've got it now. But what would you say was easier and a better, more clean process? What I did over here or what I did here? The second one. It's a much cleaner process. And what's cool, people, is watch what I can do with this. I can click on this schedule, right? And I can say, extract data. What? Data extraction. And I can say, create a new data extraction. So I can say, use a previous one. Now, you don't need to do this, people, but I can not only extract all this information into a spreadsheet of sorts, I can also click here, right? And I can pull this, and we're not going to get into doing this today, but I can link this data into a new Excel spreadsheet, right? So I can create a spreadsheet, and I'll show you how to do this in our next class. However, look at this. I can create a new Excel link. I'm going to just call it okay. And then I'm going to say, okay. Right? So it's, I believe, in the process of creating it now. It should be. But the key is I will have an Excel spreadsheet. Oh. Hold on. See, this is the reason probably I didn't have you do this. Let me see if I can find Excel. It should be on here. There's Excel. And people, you don't have to do this. I just wanted you to see it. I've got Excel open now. Now let's see if it can find it. Let's try one more time. Click. I'm going to say link data, create a new Excel link. I'm going to call it I cannot see. Let's see if it'll catch it now. I think you all have Excel on those computers, don't you? Okay. What I might need to do, people, because of the way it's it is installed properly, but you know what? Oh, I know what's wrong. I do know what's wrong. And I don't want to get into it with you right now, people, very much. But what I can tell you is under my options, there is a feature called under files. There's a support file path. And under here, I need to have Excel installed or linked in there as a path, I believe. And I don't have that in here. I believe that's my problem here. So I don't want to get into the weeds with you on that right now. I'll see if I can figure out a quick fix for it to get it onto all of your machines, to get that link path on there. But trust me, what's cool is that I can also link a data table from Excel into AutoCAD, and this will all be an Excel spreadsheet. It'll create a spreadsheet. And let me see if I can get something figured out by Wednesday for you. It's not super important that you know, because it's really an advanced feature that we get into more in advanced AutoCAD when we get into changing those paths or programs that AutoCAD will use to create these kinds of links. But just trust me, it works really well when it's all set up properly. Okay, does anybody have any questions about problem 5? Does it make sense now? Yes.
What do you type it?
You do a /. So what you do here, I'll just put it out here so you can see it. To get that, you type in a / with a uppercase U, a plus sign, and 2022, and it automatically turns to a bullet. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, great. We're right under an hour, so that's awesome. We will pick up lesson 9 on Wednesday, but I will see if I can get the link to work so you can see it work in real life, but you're not required to do it, okay? Again, the choice is yours. However you want to create this table is up to you. This schedule is up to you, but I think you can see this is a much more clean, efficient way than this one over here with individual lines and individual pieces of text. So all I would say is challenge yourself. Oh, hey, last thing. Look at how all these are aligned to the left. Look what I need to do here. If I hit that, hold down Shift and click that one, I can go up here and say bottom left, and they all align bottom left now. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Smile while you work.